Everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're exploring this program called the Brand Building School. I've got some diagrams and notes about it here, and it seems like you're really doing personalized learning differently.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's really interesting how they address the limitations of traditional education right from the start.
Yeah, their materials really lay out the problem, saying things like why busy students struggle to get brilliant grades. Like, that's something we've all heard, right?
Absolutely. And it goes on, unique careers or subject matter expertise. It's almost like they're hitting all the pain points and then, oh, real world problems cannot be solved online. They need to work on projects. So true.
Okay, yeah. And this one really stood out to me. Traditional methods devoid of individual goals for each student's tech acumen. It feels like they're calling for a total rethink of how we approach education.
Definitely. And the last one sums it up perfectly. Mentors are hard to find. Regular collaboration from diverse industries is a key in diverse curricula. It's like they're acknowledging that education needs to be more connected to the real world.
So this brand building school isn't just making small changes, right? They've created this whole framework, and it's structured in 3 phases. There's stellar foundations, orbital exploration, and then cosmic mastery.
It's like they're launching students on this learning journey, each phase building on the last.
Okay, I like that analogy. And within these phases, they have 9 specific steps, each with like a space-themed name.
Right. Solar spark, mercurial mastery, all the way to Neptunian creators. It definitely makes them memorable.
For sure. So let's start with the first one, solar spark, igniting personalized learning. This seems like the foundation, where they figure out each student's unique needs.
Yeah, it's all about identifying strengths, setting goals, and figuring out how each student learns best.
Right. But their materials also mention that students often have difficulty understanding individual learning goals. How does a program like this address that?
It sounds like they use a variety of creative assessments to help students discover their passions and talents.
Okay. So it's not just about telling students what they should be good at, but actually guiding them to figure it out for themselves.
Exactly. And they actually have data to support this approach. Their proven results mention things like clearer goals, confidence, and, greater abilities in their unique, faster progress.
So personalized learning, when done right, can really accelerate a student's development. That's promising.
It is. And it makes sense, right? When you're excited about what you're learning, you're going to put in more effort and make more progress.
For sure. Okay, so we've got the spark ignited. Now we move on to mercurial mastery, accelerating holistic growth. This seems to go beyond just academics.
It does. They emphasize a balance between academics, emotional intelligence, and creativity. It's a more well-rounded approach.
I'm seeing a theme here. But how do you get teenagers to balance all that? I mean, even the material mentions balancing academics, creativity, and emotional intelligence as a major struggle.
Well, they tackle this with curated interdisciplinary projects and real-world challenges. It's about giving them opportunities to apply all of these skills in a practical way.
So instead of learning these things in isolation, students are forced to think across disciplines and connect the dots.
Right. And the results, they claim, are pretty impressive. They talk about consistent student growth, not only in academics, but also in creativity, emotional intelligence, and time and energy management. It's like they're preparing them for life, not just for tests.
That's awesome. Next up is Venusian harmony, creativity, and science. This one really caught my eye. They're talking about combining creative pursuits with STEM subjects.
It's an interesting concept, right? It challenges the idea that you have to be either left-brained or right-brained.
Exactly. But wouldn't bridging gaps between creative and analytical thinking be a struggle for a lot of students?
They seem to think it's possible. They actually use the phrase seamlessly connecting creativity with science in their materials.
So they're not just adding art classes to a science curriculum. It's more about finding the natural points where these subjects intersect.
Yeah, it's about showing students that these skills can work together. And they say this leads to students becoming innovative problem solvers who think beyond limits.
Okay, so breaking down these traditional subject silos can actually lead to more creative and effective problem solving. I'm starting to see the connections here.
Me too. It's all about taking a more holistic and interconnected approach to learning.
From this creative blend, we move on to global groundbreakers, real-world issues. This sounds like taking learning outside of the classroom.
It is. They involve students in hands-on projects, working with mentors from different industries, and using their knowledge to address real-world problems.
But, even with good theoretical knowledge, putting it into practice can be hard. It even says right here that transforming theoretical knowledge into practical solutions is a major obstacle. How do they try to help students overcome that?
By giving them real-world experiences, of course, students get to work on actual projects alongside people who are already working in those fields.
So it's not just about reading about problems in a textbook. It's about getting your hands dirty and figuring things out in a real-world context.
Exactly. And this hands-on approach leads to confidence to face real-world problems. It's about building those skills that you can't learn from a lecture.
That makes a lot of sense. From real-world problem solving, we blast off to Martian innovation, fostering tech exploration. I'm guessing this is where they introduce all the latest technology.
You got it. Robotics, AI, the Internet of Things, all that good stuff. They're really focused on giving students the skills they'll need for the future. They even mention upgrading SWE skill set and mastering technology for tomorrow's innovation.
Wow, that sounds intense. But keeping up with technology can be overwhelming. Their material even acknowledges difficulty adapting to new technology tools. How do they address that?
It sounds like they provide ongoing support and training. They're constantly exposing students to new advancements and giving them the resources to adapt.
So it's not just a one-time tech crash course. They're constantly learning and evolving.
Right. And the results. Well, they claim that students are, get this, confidently empower nanobots to scent teleportation. And they master AI edge that readily opens doors to limitless possibilities. It seems like they're not afraid to push the boundaries.
Okay, empowering nanobots. That's definitely next-level stuff. From futuristic tech, we move to Jupiter's guides, empowering via mentorship. This seems pretty straightforward. Connecting students with mentors who can guide them.
Yeah, but it's more than just finding someone who's knowledgeable. The challenge, as they highlight, is aligning guidance with real-world aspirations and opportunities.
Right, finding a mentor who's a good fit for the student's personality and goals.
Yeah.
How do they make sure that happens?
They bring in mentors from various industries, people who have real-world experience and inspiring stories to share. It's about finding mentors who can not only teach, but also inspire.
That makes a lot of sense. And they see a lot of success with this approach, too. Their proven results emphasize increased goals and confidence in students who have had strong mentorship experiences.
It really shows the power of having someone who believes in you and can guide you on your journey.
Okay, so now we're getting to the later phases of the framework, starting with Saturnine Scholars, Ringmasters of Knowledge. This feels like where they shift back to a more academic focus, right?
Yeah, this stage is all about strengthening those core academic foundations, making sure students have a solid grasp of the fundamentals. They talk about curriculum mapping aligned with established standards like Cambridge O and A levels and NCERT.
So even with all the emphasis on personalized learning and real-world application, they're not neglecting those core academic skills.
Absolutely not. But even with a well-designed curriculum, building a strong academic foundation can be a challenge. In fact, they point out that building strong foundations for academic growth and mapping success is a common obstacle.
So how do they address that?
Well, they use what they call prioritized curriculum-mapped strategies. It sounds like they take a very structured and deliberate approach to teaching these concepts, but they also make sure to cater to individual learning styles.
So it's about finding that balance between rigor and flexibility. And does this approach actually lead to academic success?
They say it does. Their proven results for this stage mention mastering concepts and, importantly, achieving brilliant grades.
It's impressive how they seem to be achieving those traditional markers of success while still embracing a more personalized and engaging approach to learning.
Exactly. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding a way to integrate them effectively.
From mastering those fundamentals, we move on to Uranian visionaries, build and lead the way. Now we're talking leadership development.
Yes. This stage is all about preparing students to take on leadership roles in the future. They have them working on niche projects, creating videos, and building compelling profiles that showcase their skills and experiences.
It sounds like they're giving students the tools and opportunities to really shine.
They are. But even with the right tools, developing confident leaders can be tough. The material even says something like, why most active adults struggle to make students emerge as confident leaders with a clear career path. It's a real challenge.
So how do they approach leadership development differently?
It seems like they focus on real-world application and experiential learning. They talk about things like career exploration simulations and industry exposure.
So they're not just lecturing about leadership. They're actually putting students in situations where they have to make decisions, solve problems, and work together.
Exactly. And the results speak for themselves. Their proven results mention things like students exploring entrepreneurial projects and career mapping. It's clear that they're developing practical leadership skills.
Wow. It's amazing to see how all of these steps build upon each other. From sparking that initial interest to mastering those fundamental skills, it all leads to this point where students are ready to step into those leadership roles. Okay, let's finish strong with Neptunian creators, adaptable aqua artisans. This seems to be where they focus on digital storytelling and personal branding.
Right. In today's world, it's not enough to just be talented. You have to know how to communicate your skills and connect with others. That's what this stage is all about.
So they're teaching students how to create a strong online presence, build their personal brand, and share their stories with the world. But that can be really intimidating, right? I mean, even their materials mention that creating impactful digital content and personal brands is a common struggle.
Yeah, it can be. But they seem to provide a lot of support in this area. They offer expert-led workshops, for example, where students can learn from professionals in the field.
So they're getting guidance on everything from creating high-quality content to managing their online presence effectively.
Exactly, and the results. Well, they claim that students are mastering digital communication and storytelling. It sounds like they're becoming true digital natives.
It's pretty incredible how comprehensive this program is. We've covered everything from personalized learning goals to cutting-edge technologies to leadership development to digital storytelling. It's a lot to pack into one program.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting to see how they've managed to weave all of these elements together into a cohesive and impactful learning experience. Welcome back to our deep dive.
So we just finished exploring those 9 steps in the brand building school framework.
It's a lot to take in, right? Like, each step is so detailed and ambitious.
Yeah. Part of me is thinking, is it all a bit too much? Can one program really do all of that, prepare students for, like, everything?
It's a valid question, and it's important to remember that any program, even the most innovative one, has limitations.
Right. And I'm thinking about the practical side of things, too. This program relies so much on mentors and real-world connections.
Definitely. That's a crucial part of their approach. But it also raises the question of scalability. Like, how do you replicate this in a school that doesn't have access to all those resources?
Yeah, not every school can just bring in experts from all these different industries. And even if they could, wouldn't it require a ton of coordination and planning?
Absolutely. It's a logistical challenge, for sure. And, even with the best resources and the most amazing mentors, there's still one crucial ingredient: student motivation.
Totally. You can have the best program in the world, but if students aren't engaged, it's not going to be effective. But maybe that's where the personalization comes in.
Right. When learning is tailored to a student's interests and goals, it becomes so much more meaningful.
Okay, so let's imagine a student who's super passionate about, I don't know, environmental science. In this program, they wouldn't just be reading textbooks. They might actually be working on, like, real-world projects with scientists and engineers, trying to solve actual environmental problems.
Exactly. And that kind of hands-on experience is so powerful. It takes learning to a whole new level.
But what about students who are still figuring things out? Like maybe they haven't found their passion yet, or they're not sure what they're good at.
That's where those early steps in the framework come in, right? Like Solar Spark, where they focus on self-discovery and identifying strengths.
Okay. So it's not just about assuming everyone knows what they want. It's about helping them figure it out.
And providing that guidance and support along the way.
Yeah.
Just like in Jupiter's Guides, where they emphasize mentorship.
I'm starting to see how these 9 steps aren't just random ideas thrown together. They actually build upon each other.
Yeah, it's a very intentional progression. It's about guiding students through this whole journey of growth and development.
Like Solar Spark sets the foundation for global groundbreakers, right?
Totally. And then Mercurial Mastery prepares them for the leadership challenges in Uranian Visionaries.
It's like they're weaving all these different strands together, creating this really rich learning experience. And then in Neptunian Creators, they're giving students the tools to actually share their skills and accomplishments with the world.
Which is so important in today's world. It's not enough to just be good at something. You have to know how to communicate your value.
It's like they're teaching students how to build their own personal brand.
Right. And that can be applied to anything, whether it's pursuing a career, starting a business, or just sharing your ideas with others.
This brand building school framework is starting to feel less like a rigid program and more like a set of principles that can be applied to any learning environment.
I think you're right. It's a philosophy almost. It's about shifting our mindset about what education can be.
So even though it's called the brand building school, it's really more about empowering individuals to take control of their own learning.
Exactly. It's about giving them the tools and the guidance they need to chart their own course.
That's a really powerful idea. It makes me think about the future of education as a whole. Like, is this program just a small experiment? Or is it part of a bigger movement?
Well, when you think about it, personalized learning has the potential to completely change how we think about education.
So it's not just about memorizing facts and taking tests anymore.
Not at all. It's about fostering creativity, encouraging exploration, and helping students discover their passions.
It sounds like a whole new world of learning.
It really does. And while the brand building school is just one example, I think it represents a much broader shift towards more learner-centered approaches to education.
So are we just at the beginning of this personalized learning revolution?
I think so. And I'm sure our listeners are eager to learn more about how they can be a part of it. Maybe in part 3, we can dive into some practical tips and strategies for bringing personalized learning to life.
I love that idea. Let's take a break here and come back ready to explore those real-world applications. All right, welcome back to our deep dive. So we've explored this brand building school program. We've talked about the big ideas behind personalized learning.
It's been a great discussion, but I think our listeners are probably wondering, like, okay, this all sounds amazing, but how do I actually do it?
Exactly. Like, where do you even start?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that personalized learning isn't limited to schools.
So it's not just about teachers and classrooms.
Not at all. It's really a mindset, a way of approaching learning that can be applied anywhere.
Okay, I like that. So whether you're a parent, a teacher, or just someone who's passionate about learning, this applies to you.
Absolutely. And the first step, just like in that brand building school program, is understanding the individual learner.
So taking the time to really figure out what makes them tick.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. What are their interests, their strengths, their challenges, what
Yeah.
motivates them?
It's about recognizing that everyone learns differently. What works for one person might not work for another.
And once you understand the learner, you can start tailoring the learning experience to their needs.
Okay, that sounds great in theory, but like, how do you actually do that?
Well, one simple way is to offer choices and flexibility.
So giving learners some control over what they learn and how they learn it.
Exactly. Maybe they get to choose from a variety of projects, or maybe they have some say in the pace of their learning.
It's about empowering them to be active participants,
Right.
right? Not just passive recipients of information,
Right. And another key ingredient is feedback and support.
like having a mentor.
Yes, someone who can guide them, encourage them, and help them along the way.
It's about creating that safe and supportive environment where learners feel comfortable taking risks and making mistakes.
And don't forget, personalized learning isn't just about academics. It's about developing those essential life skills, too.
Like communication, collaboration, problem solving,
Mm.
all those things that you need to succeed in life, no matter what you do.
Exactly. And one great way to develop those skills is through project-based learning.
Ah, like those real-world projects we were talking about earlier.
Yes, giving learners the opportunity to apply their knowledge and skills to solve actual problems.
It's so much more engaging than just sitting in a classroom listening to a lecture. And of course, we can't forget about technology.
Technology is amazing. It opens up so many possibilities for personalized learning.
Like there are online learning platforms, interactive simulations, personalized learning apps.
There's something for everyone, but there are challenges too, right?
Yeah, like how do you actually implement this stuff in a traditional school setting?
That's a big one. It requires a real shift in mindset, not just from teachers, but from administrators, parents, and even students.
It's about changing the whole culture of education.
And that takes time, effort, and a willingness to embrace new ideas. But, it's definitely worth it.
Okay, so it sounds like personalized learning is this ongoing journey. It's not just about checking boxes or following a set of rules.
It's about constantly adapting and evolving, finding what works best for each individual learner, and celebrating their unique strengths and talents.
I love that. It's about empowering every learner to reach their full potential.
And that's what makes personalized learning so exciting. It's not just about improving education, it's about transforming lives.
Wow, what a great way to wrap things up. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, we hope you've been inspired to explore the world of personalized learning and discover the amazing possibilities it holds. Thanks for listening.